Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie begins as we discover that a virus spread quickly throughout Glasgow, killing thousands within the first week. The United Kingdom immediately declared martial law to contain the Reaper virus outbreak, and close its borders. People are ordered to stay at home, but many cross the border hoping to evade Scotland's quarantine. When the military discovers an infected man in the crowd, they shoot him down. The crowd gets enraged and attacks the soldiers. In response, the military starts shooting the crowd. Before the border closes, the soldiers rush to it. The crowd pursues them, but the gates are closed before the civilians can enter. Catherine Sinclair sees a few soldiers boarding a helicopter not far from the border, and runs up to them, begging them to take her daughter Eden. She hands them a piece of paper with their address, so the child knows where to find her. Scotland is cut off from the rest of the United Kingdom after the borders are closed. Those who remain within the quarantine zone are left to die, forcing them to feed on rats and dogs. The lights in the quarantine zone soon go out, indicating that everyone inside has died. Eventually, all of Britain falls into poverty. 27 years later, Major Eden Sinclair leads a raid on a slave trader named Richter. Sinclair and John Michelson infiltrate a ship and split up, while Richter strikes a deal with an interested party. When a member of Richter's staff spots Michelson, a shootout ensues. Richter and his henchwoman murder the buyers after suspecting a setup. As the henchwoman flees with the buyer's gold, Michelson shoots her. Richter suddenly appears and captures him, forcing Michelson to drop his gun. Sinclair hears Richter's voice around the corner, and casts her synthetic eye down the corridor, using the monitor on her wristwatch to assess the situation. Soon after, Sinclair appears, pointing a gun at Richter and slowly approaching them. Richter threatens Michelson, and tells Sinclair to return, but she keeps walking. Richter backs up and accidentally shoots Michelson, causing Sinclair to kill him. Later, as Sinclair examines the note her mother left her 27 years ago, Domestic Security Chief Bill Nelson approaches her. Nelson asks what happened to Michelson, as she inserts her synthetic eye back into her eye socket, so she pulls a disc from her wristwatch and hints that he'll see it in the recording. When Nelson examines her mother's note, Sinclair laments that she no longer remembers her mother's appearance, and that she will never be able to visit the address on the paper. The next day, police conduct a routine drug raid in an abandoned building. Still, they are alarmed to discover a room full of people covered in sores and lesions. Later that day, a senior government official, Michael Canaris, informs Prime Minister John Hatcher that the Reaper virus is spreading in London. Hatcher quickly convenes a briefing to devise a plan to contain the disease. Jane Harris suggests putting London on lockdown. Hatcher agrees, but Nelson warns them that there will be chaos once the infected bodies begin to pile up on the streets. Following the meeting, Canaris shows Nelson 3-year-old satellite photos of people in Glasgow streets. Canaris believes those people survived because they discovered a cure for the virus. He requests that Nelson find someone to lead a team of operatives to locate the cure. Nelson soon takes Sinclair to see Canaris. Sinclair hands Nelson her mother's note and instructs him to keep it safe. Canaris orders Sinclair to locate Dr. Marcus Kane's lab, the virus's leading researcher when Scotland was quarantined. Sinclair and her team will have only 46 hours to retrieve the cure, before London is left to die if she does not return in time. Residents of London begin to panic after Hatcher declares martial law. Canaris advises Hatcher to leave the people to die, because there is a high chance that the infection will re-emerge if they save them. Sinclair arrives at the border quickly, and meets the team of riflemen, tank drivers and doctors. Soon after, the operatives board 2 armored personnel carriers, and cross the border. Chandler, one of the drivers, hits an animal on the road shortly after they enter Glasgow. When they light a flare to investigate, they find hundreds of cows eating grass. Dr. Talbot plays a recording of Kane from when he was reporting to the government about their situation during the quarantine as they continue their journey. Sinclair discovers from the files that Kane and a few soldiers holed up at the hospital and reported to the government regularly, until the power went out. Kane mentions in the recording that when people ran out of food, they began feeding on each other. He feared that they would perish soon because their barricades would fail. When they arrive at the hospital, they accompany the doctors in their search for evidence of Kane's work in the abandoned building, while the drivers wait outside. Chandler notices a girl outside his vehicle. Sinclair warns him not to approach the girl, because she may be infected, but he believes she needs help, so he dons a protective suit and goes outside. When the girl collapses in his arms, Talbot orders him to isolate her so they can examine her. When a group of marauders attacks the team, the drivers are told to prepare to flee. Chandler places the girl inside the APC and isolates her, starting the vehicle. The team kills some marauders as they try to escape the building, but more appear. Outside, The marauders throw Molotov cocktails at the APC, as they circle the block to pick up their teammates. The girl escapes the isolation unit and slits Chandler's throat as he tries to flee the marauders. Chandler is killed when the vehicle collides with the building, but not before releasing a hand grenade that explodes in front of the girl. At the hospital, Sinclair orders the team to enter the elevator to avoid the marauders. Once inside, Sinclair shoots the elevator cable, and instructs the rifleman to detonate the foam grenade, to protect them as the lift falls to the ground floor. Corporal Reed, the other driver, drives to the hospital garage to retrieve the team. Soon after, the team arrives and boards, firing at the marauders pursuing them. As they flee, a marauder with a crossbow fires an arrow at them, striking Reed in the throat. The vehicle collides with a car and flips over. When the group exits the vehicle, they encounter more marauders running toward them. While Sterling tends to Talbot's wound, Sinclair and Miller provide cover. Sinclair rushes to the alleyway to join Sergeant Norton after bandaging the wound. Miller's gun jams, so he attempts hand-to-hand combat with the marauders, but they quickly overwhelm him. Sinclair eventually runs out of ammunition and is forced to surrender. As the marauders surround Sinclair and Talbot, Sterling and Norton flee through the alleys. The marauders take Sinclair to a cell and beat and interrogate her with their psychopathic leader, Saul. When Saul inquires where they came from, Sinclair admits that they came from the wall. Saul exclaims that when Kane told them there was nothing beyond the wall, he knew he was lying. Saul demands to cross the border with Sinclair, assuming she intends to return to the other side. Saul instructs his men to keep Sinclair alive before leaving the cell. Viper then humiliates Sinclair by stomping on her GPS locator with her boots. Saul gathers the marauders in the arena that night to celebrate their catch. They burn Talbot alive, and feast on him after Saul throws plates at the crowd. Meanwhile, Sinclair uncuffs herself using the wire from the broken GPS. Soon after, a guard appears and offers her a piece of Talbot's body. Sinclair pretends to ask him for a drink, but when he approaches the door, she pulls on the chain attached to his nose ring and forces him to unlock it. After Sinclair's murders the guards, Callie, a prisoner in the next cell, reveals that Kane is her father, and offers to help her find him in exchange for her release. Before Sinclair could open her cell door, Viper charges at her, armed with 2 swords, but Sinclair evades the attack. Sinclair manages to grab one of Viper's swords during the scuffle. Callie catches Viper by the hair as the 2 women try to slice each other. Sinclair seizes the opportunity to cut off Viper's hand and decapitate her, while Callie holds on. While fleeing the compound with Callie, Sinclair contacts Norton and asks him to meet them at the Queen Street train station. Marauders on motorcycles and a bus pursue Norton and Sterling as soon as they emerge from hiding. The 2 dash to the train station, where Sinclair, Callie and her friend Joshua await a train. Since Joshua starts the train before Norton and Sterling can board, they must chase it while avoiding the marauders. After Norton boards the train, Sinclair decides to assist Sterling by jumping off and confronting a marauder on a motorcycle. Sterling and Sinclair can board the train, thanks to Norton's help. Later, Callie observes that she can only point them in the direction of Kane, but she will not accompany them because he will kill her. Kane has become paranoid since her brother Saul abandoned her and began a feud with their father. Callie leads them to an abandoned military facility she uses as a shortcut through the mountains, after they get off the train. When they reach the other side, they come across Telamon, Kane's executioner. Sinclair realizes that surrendering to Telamon is the quickest way to reach Kane, so she and Norton surrender to him while others flee. However, after killing Joshua, other men on horseback arrive to capture Sterling and Callie. Telamon and his men transport the captives to Kane's medieval castle, who observes that they attempted to remain hidden for as long as possible. Still, he realizes that it's only a matter of time before someone arrives to inquire why they're still alive. Kane reveals no cure, but they survive due to immunity. An infected man breaks into the British security headquarters as authorities struggle to deal with riots in London. The man tries to kill Hatcher, but Nelson shoots him. Hatcher realizes he's infected, when he notices the man's blood sprayed on his face. He ends it all after Canaris forces him to isolate himself in his room. The following day, Kane forces Sinclair to fight Telamon in a pit. Sinclair is unarmed, whereas Telamon is armed with full body armor, a shield and a spear, so all she can do is kick him while avoiding his attacks. Meanwhile, Norton, Sterling and Callie escape from their cell after overpowering their guards. The group goes to the armory to get some explosives and weapons. Sinclair manages to steal a weapon from a guard on the balcony while in the pit. After she knocks Telamon down, the man stands up and attempts to attack her while she has her back to him. She quickly turns around and thrusts the axe through his helmet. Kane orders the execution of the prisoners, but Norton and Sterling detonate the explosives as a distraction while they flee. Norton shoots the archer with his gun after Kane orders the archer to kill Sinclair. As Kane's knights pursue them, the group flees the castle on horseback and heads to the military facility. While searching for something to help them escape, the group discovers a Bentley inside a crate. Sinclair discovers a phone while Sterling is filling up the car with gas. Norton pushes a button to close the gate as soon as they get the car in front of it, preventing the knights from following them after they exit the tunnel. The knights arrive as he runs to the Bentley, and shoots Norton with arrows before he can reach the car. Norton doesn't survive, so Sinclair drives the car out before the gates close. On the road, Sinclair calls Nelson to tell him they found the package. When Nelson hands the phone to Canaris, Sinclair instructs him to use the phone's signal to track their location. A marauder in a police car pursues them as they make their way to the border. While attempting to avoid the car, a motorcycle appears in front of them and smashes their windshield. Sinclair turns around and shoots the tires of the police car. The police car crashes off a cliff, but more marauders arrive, led by Saul. Sinclair reverses the Bentley and drives straight at the marauder convoy, forcing them to avoid her. After Sinclair turns around and heads toward the border, the chase continues. Saul soon catches up and jumps into their car. As they battle him, Sinclair and Sterling struggle to take control of the wheel. When another marauder attempts to enter, Sterling opens the door, hoping he will fall, but the man hangs on tight. Sinclair attempts to shoot Saul, but he snatches the gun. The weapon fires as they fight for it, and the bullet hits a marauder on a motorcycle. Moments later, the marauder on their door collides with an abandoned vehicle and is hit by another car chasing the Bentley. Sinclair eventually pushes Saul out the window, but he holds on to the back of the car. Saul then climbs onto the vehicle and attempts to strangle Sinclair while she drives. As they continue to the border, marauders on a bus block their path, and fire buzzsaw blades at them. Sinclair is unfazed and continues driving at full speed, prompting the marauders to leap from the bus. Saul is beheaded when the Bentley collides with the bus, but the passengers are unharmed. A helicopter lands on the road as they approach the border. Canaris immediately exits the plane and approaches Sinclair, who tells Sterling to take Callie out of the Bentley. Sinclair apologizes to Canaris for Sterling's behavior, and tells Canaris that she understands the need for sacrifice. Canaris observes that the longer the virus is allowed to spread, the better off the government will be. He observes that they will not act until the virus has killed everyone infected. Sinclair deduces that when Canaris returns with the cure, he will become a hero. Sterling observes that they can use Callie's blood to create a vaccine, but he refuses to hand her over to Canaris. Sinclair advises them to accompany Canaris to London because she has no leverage against him. She drives back to Glasgow after they leave. Nelson tracks her down at the address on her mother's note. He returns the note to her, but Sinclair points out that she no longer requires it, because she now has a picture of her mother. She then hands Nelson a recording, telling him it contains all the evidence he needs to bring Canaris to justice. Soon after Nelson returns to London, the press obtains a recording in which Canaris informs Sinclair of his intention to wait until the virus kills all infected people. Sinclair quickly returns to Marauder territory to deliver Saul's head. After she throws his head on the ground, the Marauders fall silent, but soon break into wild cheers, knowing that she is the new boss. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.